Hey, what's up YouTube? Today we are going to be doing a CVT transmission fluid service on this 2012 Nissan Rogue. This is the base model S, all-wheel drive. Really shouldn't make much difference as far as that goes, as long as you have the same engine and transmission. This is the 2.5 naturally aspirated engine. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and crack into this. First thing I'm going to do is quickly show you some of the stuff that you're going to need. And some of the stuff I recommend. So as far as choice of fluid, we're going to use this Havoline CVT fluid, full synthetic. I got this 6-gallon container here from Chevron's website directly because I have 2 vehicles that use CVT fluid, and depending on how much fluid comes out, this should give me at least 2 drain and 2 refills on each vehicle that use the same fluid. This uses the NS2, and if you look right there, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it says NS2, which is for the Nissan. So we're going to use that. And on this particular Rogue, I believe this is going to be the correct part number for the gasket. I got it directly from Nissan because I don't like to use those aftermarket garbage rubber ones. This actually is like a steel gasket. I believe this should be the correct part number. It should be the 31397-1XF0C. Got this on eBay. I think it was like 20 bucks. This is a filter for it. This is just the lower screen filter that goes inside with the O-ring into the transmission. There's also a secondary filter in the cooler line, but I'll talk about that later. Got some crush washers, which also work on the oil, by the way. I got these on Amazon. These work on the copper crush washers for the oil plug, but it also works on the transmission drain plug. Some brake clean, cup of coffee. I got these 3 containers here. These 3 containers are actually from Walmart, and they are the Hyper Tough 6-quart, and I'm going to use 1 for new fluid, and I'm going to use maybe 1 or 2 for the old fluid, so I can measure exactly what comes out, so I can replace it with the exact amount. That should be everything you need as far as accessories and fluid. As far as tools, I have a 10mm socket, some pliers, a flathead screwdriver. I got a magnet dish to catch all the bolts, because not only we're going to drain it from the plug, we're also going to go ahead and take the pan down, clean it, clean the magnets that are in it, and put that that new filter in right there. This is a Asbestos filter. I got this off of Rock Auto. It was like $8 or plus shipping, so a lot cheaper than getting it from anywhere else. Even if you go to AutoZone and get it, I think it's maybe $20–25 ish, and then they give you that gasket, which is usually the wrong one, because this, I believe, is an 18 bolt, if that means anything to anybody, because I believe there's 2 different varieties they come with them. Sometimes there's a 19 bolt and sometimes there's an 18 bolt. I believe this one's an 18 bolt, so you have to make sure you get the right one, and we'll double check that when we get into it. Other than that, we're gonna go ahead and crack into it here. Oh, and you'll also need a 19mm socket to take the drain plug out. So one of the things that's worth noting is you always should come up here and make sure you can get the dipstick fill charge tube, they call this, out first, because if you can't get this out, you're not going to be able to refill your transmission. You're going to be in all kind of hurt. So now this one I've already, unfortunately, accidentally, from checking it, because I'm very meticulous in caring for my vehicles, I've already broke the tab on it. But in a perfect world, what you have to do, come in here with a flat blade screwdriver, push that tab in, and then twist and pull, and that comes out. Now don't be alarmed, sometimes these can be a bugger to get out, especially if they've never been removed. Gasket kind of sticks to the aluminum too, but yeah, you just basically, what I found is just push this tab in and wiggle, jiggle, and pull, and it'll come out. And then when the dipstick comes out, then you know you're safe to go ahead and start the service. I usually twist it around so it doesn't lock, so this tab is going that way, but we're going to leave it slightly up just so we can get a nice airflow down through the transmission, so we get a faster drain. Now the vehicle is warmed up. I recommend doing it on a slightly warm vehicle. You don't want it to be scalding hot because you're going to burn yourself, so use common sense. What I've done is I've thrown it up here on these handy dandy car ramps here, and got some paper towels and whatnot. Before we get too involved, the first thing we're going to have to do is come down here and take, on this particular vehicle, the splash shield off. So I'm going to get you positioned, and I'm going to show you how that's done, and that's just held in with some push clips. So hold tight and we'll go down below and show you. Alright, so hopefully you're in a good position to see what's going on here. I apologize. I swear every time I do a YouTube video, I pick the windiest days possible to do this stuff on. It just seems to kind of always happen that way. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting into this here. So first thing you need to do, hopefully you guys can see, is I'm going to take this shield off under here. Which unfortunately is necessary in order to provide access to the entire pan so you can get to it, which is kind of a pain because you got to take all these clips off. It's a good chance to inspect everything under your vehicle. Now these push clips, usually if you take like a flathead screwdriver and kind of push in where the opening is, normally get them to pop. As soon as I get one out of here. There is a tool for this, but I don't have it, unfortunately. It's nice and cold already. It is October, so I'll show you what that looks like. I'm not going to record the whole thing because that'll take up a whole bunch of time, but this is what it looks like here. It's kind of one of these retaining clips. This is just like a basic everyday plastic body clip, which we're going to put aside. Now there's going to be several of them on here. Let me see if I can count how many. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It looks like there's 12 of them. There could be more or less, give or take my terrible counting, but I believe it's 12. So I'm going to go ahead and work my way around the perimeter of this plastic guard, take these out, and then we'll come back and show you what the next step is. Okay, so what we're going to do next is I got my 19mm here. I've removed that giant shield there with all these little push pins here, which I believe I counted 12 of them. Most of them are broke. I'd probably recommend picking up some extras at the parts store or on the Amazon. Sometimes you can get them pretty cheap. Those are just the clips that hold the shield in. So now, the reason why I had to do this on this particular vehicle is because, as you can see, this cross member here blocks where you can get into the fasteners for the drain pan for the transmission, and that plastic shield basically hung right about to here, so it blocked my view to get to that, which is really inconvenient. So what we're after first is this 19mm drain plug, and this is on the driver's side in from the wheel. Don't accidentally drain your oil, that's on the passenger side. So I'm gonna get you set up for a good view, and then we're gonna start draining this. Okay, hopefully you're in a good spot. I do not have a cameraman for this service to help out, and hopefully the lighting isn't. So we're gonna go ahead after this 19mm. I got it on loose and already, and then all we're gonna do is just let this sucker drain. It usually comes out of here pretty fast, especially if it's warmed up, so you got to be ready, have your pan positioned good. There it goes. Now fluid doesn't look terrible to look at. However, the last time I had this apart, it looked pretty, I think there was a lot of metal shavings in it. So I'm gonna give this a good change. I'm gonna put the drain plug in my metal dish and get the other drain ready to go. And sometimes I have to, you want to try to get as much as this you can. For the sheer simple fact that you want to measure this. Alright. So I'm going to start sliding this like this and start collecting the next pan, because that was starting to fill up pretty quickly. There we go. Should start slowing down a little bit here. You just want to let this drain as long as you can, because you want to be able to take this, like I said, get as much out of here as you can, and plus measure whatever comes out is extremely helpful too. So I'm going to let this drip for a little while, and then I'll get set up with my other tools to start the next part. But we're just going to let this drip for a while, and there's no point in recording that. So all right, we'll be back in a minute. Okay, once again I apologize for the wind noise. I went ahead and screwed this 19mm plug back in there. Most of the fluid drained out. So far, it looks like I got out about slightly over 5 quarts from just a basic drain. So hopefully that information helps somebody too. I measured it in that container. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna slowly start loosening, preferably the back ones up first, just to get some drain going here. Because we had to take his pan down. It's also worth noting that you should probably consider making sure you line your gasket up around here before you do anything to make sure that the gasket's gonna fit this. I have 2 different ones. Sorry, asthma. I have 2 different ones that work on here that will fit either way to use if I need to. I'm pretty sure it's 18. I didn't count them. In addition to that, I really don't have a problem reusing these because they're steel, but I've already used it twice, so I'm just going to start taking these out. I'm actually going to move that back and bring my magnetic dish in a little closer here. Take all these out, put them in the dish. These are 10, by the way, millimeter. A little hard to see because I got the light in my eyes, but it's mainly so you guys can see. I can see what I'm doing because I've done this enough times, but I want you guys to get the best possible picture you can get here. All right, and as we pull this in, because it is going to start probably dripping here, I'm not going to take, I'm going to just start loosening these. That one probably didn't need to come all the way out, but it should be fine. These ones are a little tough to get to. Those are already pretty loose. Now the reason why you're doing this is to get a controlled drain. So you're not got all the fluid coming out at once. All right, so now it's starting to leak, so we're gonna go ahead and give it a little bit of a tug here. Try to break that seal. There we go. All you gotta do is give it a little pull, and it'll start to drain. That's what you want, because there's still fluid in the back of this pan. What I'm gonna do is grab a rag here, and I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to hand tools now. Of course, it's gotta be windy out today, never fails. I swear, only time I want to work on a car, it either rains or it's windy, and I don't have a garage because I have a, we'll call him a special dad that likes to, we'll call it collect everything. Jeez. Sorry, I'm starting to get a bath here. This isn't really the ideal environment to be doing this because, like I said, it's outside, the wind is blowing like crazy, it's getting cold. I don't mean to complain so much, but it does get kind of annoying when you're trying to do something here. All right, I'm going to try to start loosening these up a little more here. Might be good, actually. Just get in here and just start cracking these because I think most of it's going to has drained out now. Actually easier to do sometimes without gloves, but I'll try to do this with gloves so I'm not completely filthy dirty here. This isn't exactly my favorite job. It'd be significantly easier if I had like a lift, but you know, that'll never happen in my life. I really just need to buy a house is what I need to do. You know, a nice house, garage, maybe to get way more done that way. I really don't like going to get my vehicle service places. I prefer to do everything I can myself. Anything I possibly can do anyway. Point of making these videos is for that reason. You know, I like to show people that it is possible to do this stuff on your own. Not really rocket science. Just have to have some tools and the willing to get a little dirty, you know. All right. I think I have some spares of these laying around if I end up needing them. Oh, that one went right in the pan. Guess I should grab a magnet so I didn't just stuff my whole hand in there. That was, I'll take that off. We don't need that no more. It's just hindering us from seeing what we're doing here. There's a fastener up here. A little bit of a bugger to get to here. Sometimes. Come on. You can get on there. Get on there. I might have to do that one with the wrench. Sorry, guys. Struggle day. Can't get in there to get on it, unfortunately. Oh, it's a pain in the neck. I don't know why they do stuff like this. My car, I have an Altima, which you've probably seen me do videos on, and this is doesn't have this cross member here. I can't believe how many threads. How many threads are on this thing? Jeez Louise. Holy cow. Okay, there we go. Might as well get this other one while we're here too. So we only got like one or two holding this up. Alright, got that one in the magnetic dish. Alright, what else is holding this? I think just two. Yeah, okay. So the one I'm going to take off first is going to be this one here. And now, actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to take this corner one up here. This one looks like fun. Oh boy, that's rough to get to. Usually not bad until your hands get covered in transmission fluid, and then you can't really get in there to do it. Sometimes just using good old-fashioned fingers is easier. If I had this on a lift, I'd probably been done a half hour ago. Oh, come on. But this is unedited fun. These tires are going to need rotated. Alright, that one. I believe there's only one left in this thing. Hopefully. Oh, I'm done with this process. I'm just putting pressure against the pan here. Might have to nix this glove because this glove is starting to get on my nerves. These screws are so tiny. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to slowly drop it straight down. Give it a little wiggle wiggle because it's going to want to drain some more. Alright, and the gasket actually came with the pan, so that's good. Alright, so the pan doesn't look bad at all, actually. That's good. Okay. So that's going to drain for quite a bit there. What I'm going to do is let that there so it catches most of that. Try to clean up a little bit in here. Give it a little dab. That just kind of takes some of the residue so for excessive drip down so you're not getting covered. Okay, now what we're going to do next, we're going to go ahead and change this filter out. And this filter is, I don't know if you can see that, it's actually right here. There's this one, this fastener, and then there's one right there. So 1, 2, 3. And then this is like a screen mesh filter. So we're going to change that. I'm going to see if I can get you positioned to see that the best I can. Other than wind chimes. Now one of these is longer than the other, so be ready for that. More fluid is going to come out of here, by the way. I'm going to make sure the O-ring comes out too. And I'll talk about later in the video, there's another filter too that you should change, which I've already done, but I'm not going to record that. Alright, this one's a short one. Set that separately aside. Alright, let's see. This one here might be the long one, I can't remember. We'll find out here momentarily. This feels pretty long. Okay, so this is the long one. The long one goes right here, which is by this bolt. So the long one goes there. Now this should hold itself in there for the most part. These probably are the same size, which they are. Okay, so just remember the long one goes right here. So now this is going to let more fluid come racing out of here, so be prepared for that. Just going to give it a little wiggle here. Drop it. That's usually what you almost always do. And the O-ring did come out with it here, so that's very important. So to make sure that comes out, the new one will have one on it. All right, so I'll go ahead and I'm going to shut you off for a minute and grab the new filter and then come back here in a second to address that process for you. So just hold tight for a minute, guys. Okay, so I got the new filter here, one I got from Rock Auto. I want to make sure the little new O-rings on there. I'm actually going to take out of the pan here just a little bit of, doesn't matter if it's used, new, doesn't matter. We're just going to lubricate that O-ring so it goes in there nicely, and then figure out what direction this thing came out of there now. Wasn't really paying attention. Hopefully you were. We're just going to kind of position it in place there, give it a little upward. It should click a little bit. There you go. Let that go for a minute. Go ahead and put this long guy back in there, like so. Now there is a torque spec for this. I'm going to go to use your brain and not over tighten it. This could be a little tricky at this angle. Yeah, I apologize again, guys. I know I keep apologizing for all the wind noise, but I'm sure it's got to be picking it up. I'm still new to this GoPro. I haven't used it very much, so I'm not sure what kind of quality we're going to be getting out of it here. And okay, so that's pretty good. So now what I'm going to do now, and I'll probably not record it just for a simple fact that, like, it's extremely windy and I'm getting kind of cold, and you kind of get the point here so far. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to clean up this surface, this mating surface, with like a little bit of a scraper here. It's not too bad, but I want to get all the gasket material off there. And then we'll go ahead and take this pan up top and we're going to do it. So what I'm going to do is you don't want to gouge the aluminum, but I'm going to get like just a little bit of a razor blade. I'm going to carefully just give it a little once over just to make sure that this is all in good shape here as far as the surface is nice and clean, and then go over it with a little bit of brake clean. So I'm probably not going to record that just because I already got a lot of footage going on here. So I'm going to go ahead, we got the filter in, I'm going to tighten that down to, you know, a decent torque. You don't want it too tight. You just want to go to, there's a very small torque number for this. I'm just kind of crisscrossing here. That's probably even too tight there, but that's okay. At least I know it's not going anywhere. Okay, so that should be all you really need to do with that. So I'm going to take the pan up top on the workbench, start cleaning it, and I'm going to scrape this off, and then I'll show you the pan cleaning procedure here in a minute then. So hold tight, guys. All right, we got the pan here. We're going to go ahead and clean it up. What I do is I very gently took a razor blade around here. You don't want to really gouge up the surface, but just to get any loose stuff off of here as far as any remaining gasket material, especially around where the bolts go in. So what I'm going to do is first just try to get these magnets out of here and set them aside, because we got to clean them. Really not bad in here. I'm actually quite impressed with how good this looks. Put them over there. And then we're just going to go ahead and spray this down here with some brake clean. Go ahead and now you don't want to just throw this stuff in the ground, obviously, because it's oil and all kind of other crap, fluid and brake cleaner and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump it into this oil container that I'm going to use to recycle later. Won't really hurt anything. I'm just going to go ahead and clean this pan out best I can. Hopefully you're seeing that. Let me double check on you guys. Yep. Okay, good. I'm just going to clean this out with some nice clean shop towels. Flip it over. And clean the other side too, because I mean it's not going to be perfect, but okay, hopefully I didn't get the camera soaked. Alright, it's not going to be perfect, but it can't hurt to clean the other side up so that everything, it's got some undercoating on it, which I don't really know why, but it does. Okay. That way you have a nice clean mating surface when this is all done. To put this back together, I'm going to go ahead and actually go around the outer lip too, so that way any loose dirt or anything that could be on here. Alright, now I'm going to get another clean rag again, because that's the point here, is cleanliness. Do a quick another refill here. Go around the edge, make sure it's nice and clean where the gasket's going to be meeting up. Now I already went down below and cleaned up the bottom of the transmission to make sure that it's good shape. Alright, looking good. Go ahead and grab another one. Don't be afraid, paper towels are cheaper than a crappy job or a bad transmission. Alright. Sure. Give this a little quick blow too to make sure there's no lint or dust in here when we're done here. Okay. Looking good. Beautiful. Now, clean these magnets up here. Try to separate them here if I can. They're pretty slippery. Just go ahead and put them in that rag and wipe away. They're not terrible. It's about normal for the amount of clutch material. Actually, less than I've seen. So that means that this transmission's still in pretty decent shape. Give it a quick little spray there of the brake clean here. Inspect the magnet, make sure there's no big issues going on there. Now we'll put that one back in there. That one's in place. There's these little divots that are up. That shows you where they go. Clean the other one. Give that one a spray off camera here so I don't get my camera covered in brake clean. Okay. Looking good. Alright, just give it another twirl. I want it nice and dry. I don't want any of that lint or brake clean on that. Position that right in the middle. Give it one little tiny wipe here. Okay, and this should have only been finger tight. Clean that off. Just kind of clean the rust around that mating surface a little bit. Make sure that where the plug goes in nice and clean. Okay. And then there's a crush washer, like I said, it actually goes on this plug that we're going to change out here as well and put a new one on. I'll get this one off. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and grab a new one. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, so I got the new crush washer. I'm going to go ahead and spin that copper thing on there. And then we're just going to, for now, screw this back into the pan right here. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm actually doing. Let me turn it around for you so you can see better. Just screwing this back in. We'll tighten it down to the correct torque spec and crush that washer down once it's on the vehicle, because it's easier because the pan will be secured to the vehicle. Just nice and finger tight so it doesn't fall off. And one last check, inspection, make sure there's nothing that shouldn't be in here. Absolutely do not want anything in here. And then we're going to go down to the bottom and get our gasket in place and get that put on. Okay, so this part can be a little challenging to do, is getting the gasket to stay still all at the same time as putting the pan back up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to get a bolt ready in one hand. Figure out what direction the stupid pan goes. Alright, yeah. And get this kind of in position here. Ooh, probably not a bad idea to put a little bit of gasket sealer, just a little tad bit. Alright, once you get that one started, you can then worry about lining up the gasket elsewhere, just to kind of give you something to helping hand to hold here. Let's see here. There we go. And there's little dowels that stick off here too that help you position the pan. Little pegs that stick out of the transmission, like locating dowels. Try to get that started here. Yeah, once you have a couple started by hand, then you can go ahead and do the rest here. I've already cleaned up the mating surface of the transmission here where the pan goes on. I'm going to grab my extension here. Just start slowly screwing these guys in here. Oh, it's getting windy. So I'm going to just work around here off camera, and all I'm doing is putting all these fasteners, these 10mm fasteners, back in all the way around here. So I'm not going to record that whole thing. I'll bring you back in a minute. Okay, so I went ahead and hand tightened all these up. Like I said, I'm sure there's a specific torque for it. I would, if you're concerned about it, look it up. I just did hand tighten and a little all the way around. You don't want too tight. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up this drain plug. Get that crush washer to crush down, and it doesn't have to be ridiculous, but you don't want it leaking either. So right about there should be good. Now I'm going to clean up real quick, brake clean the bottom of this a little bit. Try not to get the camera, which I just did. Clean this up so that way when I fill it up I can look for leaks. Just wipe this off. Wipe off the camera. I'm sure I got it covered. Like I said, you just want to clean this off just so that way if there is any leaks, you'll be able to quickly see them. Okay. Now what we're going to do is go back up top now and measure what all the fluid that we took out of this thing, and let you have a look at what that procedure looks like here in just a second. Okay, as you can see from this measuring jug, hopefully you can see, now this isn't exactly perfectly level, but I got, I would say, almost exactly 6 quarts. And I collected, I would say, 99.9% of the fluid that came out. Maybe a very small sliver of fluid that, you know, that I slopped up from the pan or was in the filter that spilled a little bit. But so I'm just going to go ahead and put the 6 quarts right back in it right out the gate, because I know I need at least that, and then check it. To do so, I'm going to go ahead and use this fluid. I'm going to grab a brand new fresh container here, 6 quarts that has never been used. Unscrew this here. Like I said, these are from Walmart. They're really handy for this kind of stuff. There's a nozzle in here. Go ahead and screw that on. Onto here. I hate the way that screen goes out. Alright, make sure that's nice and tight. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and make sure there's no dirt or anything in there. I'm going to go ahead and just fill this up to 6 quarts using my CVT Havoline fluid. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be back in a minute. Alright guys, I got my funnel in the charge tube there. I got my CVT fluid, 6 quarts. Put in my container here, and I'm just going to try to not spill it everywhere and go ahead and just pour it in. Looks like this kind's a brown color. The other stuff I used was Castrol stuff. It was like a red, pink color. This stuff is brown. Just go ahead and fill this up. Having this big container like this is actually super convenient, especially getting it in bulk. It's a lot cheaper. I think it came to like $7.20 some cents a quart when I did the math. I went to the Chevron website and just bought the bulk 6-gallon Havoline. Never used it before, so I really don't know how good it is. I guess we'll find out. So let that. It's also a good idea before committing like this much that I just did is to go down and check for leaks, but I'm confident in my work, so. You should label these containers what you use them for with a permanent marker, dirty, new CVT fluid, and put them as a dedicated jug for that. You don't really want to be pouring other fluids or using these to pour other fluids. Now motor oil, it's not too bad. You can go ahead and just reuse these jugs, but when it comes to CVTs, they're super touchy. You don't want to be mixing even a little bit of fluid if you can avoid it. Like I said, I'm just putting the whole 6 quarts in, mainly because that's what came out of it. I measured it precisely, and if it needs a touch more, I can go ahead and do that. I'll take it for a little drive. Now this doesn't get everything out of the system, just an FYI. You really should drive it around. May seem wasteful, but you should really drive it around and do another drain and refill, just using the plug at least. Because, like I said, what's going to happen is there's a lot still in the torque converter. There's still probably some in the variator and throughout all the different passages of the transmission, so would not be a bad idea at all to go ahead and do another drain and refill. But this is just, for now, we're just going to fill this up and drive it through the gears, check it, and go for a ride and see how it is. Okay, that's probably good enough. I'm going to go ahead and cap this off here. Boy, it's still running. Okay. I always cap these containers off because I don't want to get any debris in them. So All right, so we're gonna put that aside. And then now that we did that, go ahead and put your dipstick in. Like I said, put it in reverse so this tab here goes to the back and doesn't lock. And that way you can take it back out easily, check your fluid here in a couple minutes, because you're going to need to do that. All right, so put our funnel aside. All right, so that is pretty much the procedure. Now, like I said, need to put this back on here. This is your splash shield if you had it. I'm gonna have to get some plastic clips because most of mine broke. Go back underneath here and take a quick peek, make sure everything looks okay. Make sure nothing's leaking, which I don't see anything leaking. It looks fine. I don't see any wetness. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, everything looks good under here. So like I said, I will check it again and also, you know, check to make sure the fluid level's level and put the shield back on. But for now, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and start it up and check the level, make sure it's on the full, and see how that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and get up again here. So I'm going to go ahead and start it, and then I'm going to check the level on the dipstick. And once it's warmed up and you run it through all the gears, ultimately you want it to be right, there's like these hash marks. You want it to be about where that notch is right there. There's like a little notch right there. You kind of want it to be about right there, where my fingernail is. That's about the full mark-ish, once it's warmed up to a good operating temperature. So I'm just going to put this back in, let that finish going down, run it through all the gears, go for a ride, warm it up, check it, look at the condition of the fluid, and I'll probably do another drain and refill, which I have a procedure on my channel for just doing a standard pull the plug and refill, so I'm not going to record that. But I hope this helps somebody out. 2012 Nissan Rogue, CVT fluid drain and fill. Also, there is a filter, you'll never see it, but it's way down. Let's see if I can put my hand or finger on it. So if you see my middle finger there, I don't know if that's going to show up. There's a thing that looks like a cylinder with fins on it. That is another paper cartridge filter in there and an O-ring. I'd recommend getting your VIN number and getting that part from Nissan, the filter and the O-ring, just to make sure you get the right stuff. Not terrible to change. Usually just got to take this air compartment plastic stuff off with these clips and whatnot. And then I found that if you take the inner fender well plastic shield out and turn your wheel out, you can get a bunch of extensions and come into the side of the transmission, and that's the cooler for the transmission. Now it does have some coolant antifreeze hoses going to it that unfortunately, I don't even know, you can't even see it from here. Yeah, you can kind of see the fins down there, but there's 10 millimeters that hold that on. There's 4. You take that off. You don't really have to disconnect the hoses for the coolant. If you're careful, you can pull it out enough to get the filter out, put the new filter and O-ring on, and then slam it back together. And like I said, I found going through the inner fender well made it easier to get to some of those fasteners. But you do want to change that filter. I'm not going to record that because I already did it, and it's extremely difficult to record, so because of how deep it is. But remember to change that one too. So other than that, check your fluid level, warm it up, run it through the gears, drive around for a while. Don't get it scalding, just get it normal, you know, somewhat decent in temperature. Check the fluid, make sure it's around those, you know, in the middle of those hashes, or at least closer to that topper little cutout. There is a procedure to properly check the fluid that Nissan would do using a computer. I'm just using my own judgment, so do what you want at your own risk on that. Make sure you dispose of the fluid correctly, and that should be it. If you need torque specs, look those up. I'm sure you can get them on the Google. So hope this helps somebody. Thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, kids.